How many of us, wherever we are now and wherever we hope to be, maybe this time next year, hope that we can leave an impact wherever we are? Yeah, me too. Same here. How many of us also, like me, feel sometimes that we don't have what it takes to leave the impact that we want to leave? Also like me. That's right. If your hand is not up, I don't know if you have it all figured out. I hope you do. That's awesome. But tonight is not a night for the people who have it all figured out. Tonight is a night for the people who are working on it like me and like you. So I'm excited to dive into this, and I'm going to start praying. Lord, I thank you so much for every single person in this room. I thank you so much for every story that you're telling through each of us. God, I just pray that tonight, as we enter into this space, we just leave with more of a pep in our step, more confidence in who you are and who you created us to be as we leave this place. I just pray that your Holy Spirit would be present, and I just pray that you would be with me right now. In your name, amen. Amen. Cool. Let's rock and roll. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at is the life of Moses. My Mountain Fresh brother, Drew, he spoke about Moses in the fall, I believe it was, and he did a great job. But tonight, what we're looking at is Exodus 4 specifically. And in this passage, there's some dialogue that's going on between God and Moses. And God has anointed Moses to go back to Egypt to free his people from slavery. So we're going to pick that up. So we can get that verse on the screen. It says, Moses answered, "What if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, 'The Lord did not appear to you'?" Then the Lord said to him, "What is that in your hand?" "A staff," he replied. The Lord said, "Throw it on the ground." Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, "Reach out your hand and take it by the tail." So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. "This," said the Lord, "is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you." There's a lot that goes on in that one interaction. There's a whole lot that goes on. But I actually think that in that interaction, Moses supplies us with a roadmap for where we're going tonight, for how do we use the things that are in our hand to accomplish God's will for our life? How do we use the things that are in our hand to find purpose and fulfillment with what's in our life? The first thing that Moses does right there is identify what's in his hand. God says, "Moses, what's in your hand?" Moses says, "A staff." A staff, Lord. That's the first step. He identifies what's in his hand. The second thing that happens, God says, "Moses, throw your staff down." Moses has to obey the Lord. He has to step out in faith. I imagine that was kind of a weird request. If I'm talking to the Lord and I say, "Alex, what's in your hand?" "A staff." "Throw it down." Okay. Moses has to relinquish what's in his hand. He has to identify, and then he has to surrender that to the Lord. The third part of this, arguably the hardest, Moses has to be bold. He does something really crazy. He picks up a snake. That's something that I think I had to read back a few times. Just imagine right now, if that happens, if there's a huge snake slithering up here, I'm running. At that point, my dialogue with the Lord is absolutely over. I'm not picking up a snake. But Moses does something really bold, and he picks up this snake. But I also think there's something important to learn from this, and that is Moses had more in his hand than he thought he did. And so do you. Tonight, everybody in here, we all have more in our hands right now than we think we do. So how many of us are coming in here tonight? Maybe we think, you know what? God, I don't know what you see in me that you think I'm so special. I'm a sinner. If you knew what I thought about all day, you wouldn't be looking at me like that. I don't even come to the end to hear someone speak. I just come to hang out. I don't care about this. I'm a sinner. I don't think that I can be used for anything worthwhile. Some of us have thought those thoughts before. But we have more in our hand than we realize. Regardless of if that's you tonight, regardless of your past or your present or where you are in your relationship with the Lord, or if you come into the space and you don't even know if you believe in the Lord tonight, I promise you, you have more in your hand right now than you realize, just like Moses did. Also, while I'm going, the second thing I think that's important to note in this is that the same God that has supplied you with what's in your hand tonight, he gave you control of what to do with that. That's something really huge. That's something we need to take note of. God is in charge, but he blessed us collectively with the gift of control. He gave us control of what to do in our hand. Moses had a choice to let that staff go or not. And so all of us together, we have more in our hand than what we realize, and we have control over what to do with that. So tonight, as we get going, we're also going to look in Matthew. We're going to look at this parable of the talents, and if we could get that on the board, por favor. Hunter did a great job reading this, and here we go again. We're going to say, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. This is a very side note. For some reason, the first time I read that, I pictured Obama's voice. I don't know why. Well, it feels right. I don't know. I digress. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. I want to focus on that last sentence. It says, come and share your master's happiness. Tonight, we all were created for a purpose, and God gave us gifts. And when we walk in those gifts and we steward those gifts, it gives God such pleasure. It gives God such pleasure to know that we are walking in the gifts. He invites us to come and share in his happiness when we steward those gifts well. This past Christmas, our staff was having a Christmas party, and we're going to do a little bit of a gift exchange. And Mike has all the names of our staff, the end staff, all the names are in this hat. You reach in, you pick a name, you keep it secret. So I reach in, I pick my name, and I get Mary Grace. I say, that's awesome. We love Mary Grace. Mary Grace is fun. I'm fun. This is going to be a layup. I'm ready. I'm excited. So I get my gift, and I go on with my week. So the next Thursday comes. We're hanging out at Mike's place. We got the Christmas tree. We got gifts under the tree, the whole thing. And Justin was one of the first people to go. Do you want to know what Justin got for Joyce? Justin pledged to make Joyce a desk, to build her a desk. That was her Christmas gift. Yes, to build her a desk in her office. Justin, wherever you're at, that was a great gift. But even then, I look over to Drew, and remember, this is a secret. Nobody knows I have Mary Grace, but I was so excited about my gift that I couldn't contain this. And I look over to Drew, and I whisper to him, I'm like, bro, she's going to love her gift. I was so excited. I said, she's going to love her gift. The next person that goes is Thurt. Thurt walks up to the tree. He picks up his gift and gives it to Mike. He says, Mike, Merry Christmas. Mike opens it up. Do you know what Thurt got for Mike? This man got Mike not only Husky memorabilia and Husky gear, he got Slater a Husky dog bowl and a Husky chew toy. That's the best gift ever. That's so thoughtful. At this point, I'm starting to sweat a little bit. I'm like, okay, my gift's probably not that great. And then Mike gets up. Mike walks to the tree. He picks up the gift, and who else does Mike walk to but me? He says, hey, Alex, here you go. Merry Christmas. I said, thanks, Mike. Walk in, open it up. And Mike gets me this mug, which literally says, I'm feeling dangerous. This is my catchphrase. This is the best mug anyone's ever gotten me. I was so hyped. Mike was so thoughtful. He got it 6 weeks in advance. Like, he knew that he was going to get this for me before we even did the Christmas thing. Mike knew that I wanted this. It was the best gift ever. And so I'm like, I'm feeling dangerous. I love this. Except not in that moment, because now it's my turn. And I'm walking up to the tree, and I pick up my gift, and I'm headed toward Mary Grace. I said, Mary Grace, here you go. Merry Christmas. Mary Grace gets the gift. It's in a bag. And she takes the wrapper out. She throws the wrapper. And everybody knows Mary Grace. Mary Grace is arguably the most high-energy person that I've ever met in my life. So Mary Grace opens the gift, throws it open, and is looking. And she does one of these where she's just like, she kind of does the head tilt. And then she takes out my gift. And then she looks in the bag to see if there's anything else. That's a humiliating feeling. When you got someone a gift you think they're gonna love, and they literally take the gift and look to see if there's anything else in there. There was nothing else in there. And I'm very embarrassed to admit what I got for Mary Grace, but I wanna show this on the screen, actually. What you're looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is a cutout of the state of Tennessee that was 62 cents from Office Depot on Google Images that was cut out with scissors by me and not within the lines. It was really bad. It was so bad. But Mary Grace has this really cute desk at work where she has all these artsy things and pictures and maps. And I thought, you know what? There's one thing missing. She's not repping Tennessee. I'm going to get her something from Tennessee. And so it's horrible. I went to Office Depot and printed that out. And it's a piece of paper, and I gave it to Mary Grace. And it was really awkward for both of us, honestly. It was a bad moment. Not the best gift. Something that also happened this past fall. As soon as I moved to Seattle, honestly, before I moved to Seattle, I really wanted one of those denim Sherpa jackets. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, those are so cool. I really, really wanted one. And one day, I walked into the trailer. Who remembers the trailer? Yeah. Rest in peace. We missed the trailer. I walked into the trailer, and on my chair at my desk, draped over, is a denim Sherpa jacket. And Justin had one at the time. I walk up to Justin. I said, Justin, why is your denim on my chair? Justin looks at me and says, hey, man, that's not my denim. That's your denim. I said, you right. Put that thing on. Feeling myself. Just strutting around. I felt great. This is a side note. Justin and Third are great gift givers. I was telling us, like, wow, very impressive by how good of gift givers they are. But I was absolutely feeling myself, and I love this gift. And there's actually video evidence of how much I love this from the night that they give that to me. That's great. That's great undercover videography by my girlfriend. And I really hope that they don't show the videos on the live stream because my mom's going to be mad about the hip thrust. I'm sorry, Mom. But the point is, I was super, super excited when I got that gift. And you see the difference. When I gave Mary Grace this gift that I really thought that she was absolutely going to love, didn't really work out that way. But Third and Justin gave me a gift that I owned and I loved. It also says in Matthew, there's a passage where Jesus is speaking, and he talks about how even though we're sinners, we can still give each other good gifts. He says, how much more will our God, our Father in heaven, give good gifts to us when we do those things? And I think that's important to note, that God enjoys when we use the gifts that he's given us more than when he gave us the gift. It does more for his heart to see us walking on those gifts and stewarding those well than it did when he actually gave them to us. And so Moses didn't have anything that God gave him in that moment. Moses had what was in his hand. Moses had to identify what's in his hand. And that's how it all started. He had enough in his hand to accomplish God's will for his life. So tonight, look, what's in your hand? This is the practical application. What's in your hand tonight when we sit here? I know that there are people in this room that have a tremendous gift of hospitality. I know that there are people in this room who have the gift of making other people feel better about themselves. That's a huge gift. I know that there are people in the room who are really passionate and really gifted in battling social injustices in our community and being the catalyst for change. That's a gift. What's in your hand? I know all of us, guaranteed, all of us have a story. Our story is a gift. Do you know that God can use your story to change lives? God can use your story to change lives. Your story is unique. God can use who you are to help find freedom for who somebody else is. And that's huge. But we have to identify what's in our hand. That's the first step that we have to do. The second thing that we have to do, we have to obey. Once we identify what's in our hand, we have to be willing to relinquish what's in our hand. We got to be ready to give that away to the Lord. This past Thursday, a couple of my core group guys, any of my core group guys in the house right now? Where are we at? There we go. A couple of my core group guys and some of the SYM, Street Youth Ministry team members, we went down to South Seattle to partner with Union Gospel Mission, which is a great, great organization. And we went down and we worked at the women's shelter. And we prepped a meal, we served a meal, and we got to hang out with a few of the ladies. And it was a great time. We had an awesome time. And when we're finishing up, the guy that we're cooking with, with the kitchen cleaning, he says, hey, tonight's graduation night. I said, what does that mean? He said, the guys at the men's shelter, they've gone through a rehabilitation program, and tonight is graduation night. They're finishing. He said, you want to go? I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. I would be honored. I'd be thrilled to be a part of that. And so we all walk across, and we go to this graduation. And being a part of that was incredible. It was such a gift just to be there. I got so much more out of that night than I bargained for. And it was so cool to see moms and grandmas and uncles and brothers cheering on these guys who had overcome so many obstacles in their life. And it was really, really cool to be a part of. But there was this one guy specifically, after he walked across the stage, He sat down with another gentleman who was interviewing him, and it was a little bit of a Q&A style. And he asked him, he says, Bob, what was it for you that made you stay? I know that you didn't want to be here at first, but what was it for you that made you stay? And this guy sits there, and he says, every morning I walked the halls, and people looked me in the eyes. They said, good morning, Robert. How'd you sleep? How you doing, brother? How about the Mariners? How about the Seahawks? How you doing? And he said, those are the times where I felt like it actually mattered that I was here or not. That people noticed me, that people noticed my presence. And I heard that. I actually started tearing up. And the first thing that I thought of was this community. That was the first thing that I thought of. And I thought of how proud I am and how honored I am to be a part of a community here that makes those small things big things. That was the first thing I thought of. Everybody here who volunteers at the Palmer House to write notes on the coffee cups, that's the smallest thing, but that is the coolest thing ever. That can change someone's whole day. Everybody here who works at the Palmer House, everybody here who's a part of the community doing those small things. When people come up to me and say, Alex, what's good, my man? How you doing? How are you? That actually means the world to me. It makes me feel like I'm seen, makes me feel like I'm worthy, like someone went out of their way to say hi to me and to ask me how I'm doing. And those are really, really small things. But when we come here tonight and everybody raised their hand and said, hey, I would love to make an impact. The biggest impact we make on people happens in those tiny, tiny ways. The smallest things. So what does that look like for us? What does it look like on your walk to class? What does it look like tomorrow when you go to class? You keep your headphones in on Instagram, or are you actually looking for, hey, who can I love specifically today? How can I go out of my way to love someone specifically? What about the people in our house? What does that look like? Can we go out of our way to use what's already in our hand to have an impact on somebody in a really tiny, seemingly tiny way? How does that look like for us? What can we do? The third thing that Moses does is Moses takes a risk. Moses takes a tremendous, tremendous risk. For me in my life, the biggest risk that I ever took was risking that God had more for me than I have for myself. I didn't really believe that for a long time. And I thought legitimately that I could do more with what was in my hand than God could do with what was in my hand. I thought I could have more fun with what was in my hand than I could if I surrendered that to God. But there's something that I've learned in the last few years and something that I want to share with you tonight. It's that if we collectively as a community want to make this place better, if we want to make Seattle better, if we want to go out and we want to be the people who are walking to class, seeing people eye to eye, that's so important, because in those moments, that's where people feel the love of Christ. When people say, hey, you're seen, you're worthy, you're valuable, that is communicating the gospel to people. Doing that to people who are in class, doing that to some of our brothers and sisters who might be living on the streets in Seattle. Say hey, I'm going to look you in your eye. How are you doing? Have a good afternoon. It's good to see you today. That changes lives. That's so huge. But one thing that I've also learned is that as imperative as it is that we do that, we can't hope to impact the world and to impact other people in their brokenness without first engaging in our own brokenness. And I didn't learn that until, down the line. But it's definitely something that I have learned, that I can't hope to impact any of you or anybody in your brokenness if I don't first engage with mine. And when we take that back to Moses, I think that's really profound, because Moses engages with a snake. A snake. God could have turned that staff into anything. It could have been a rabbit. He made it a snake. And so I think it's important that we have to engage with the snakes in our lives to make an impact. We have to engage with the things that we're embarrassed by. Maybe the things that we're kind of ashamed of. The things that we don't want to show people. Hey, this is what I have in my hand. I'm going to keep that tucked down. I don't want people to know. We have to engage with those things, just like Moses engaged with the snake. This time last year, I was working at a refugee camp in Greece for a little bit, and it was a phenomenal time, but it was also a difficult time. There was a lot of hard conversations that happened. And on this one particular night, I'm speaking with a gentleman and just trying to get to know his story a little bit. Say, hey man, where are you from? How'd you end up here? And he told me he was from Syria. He's a refugee. And he had lost everything in Syria. And it was really gut-wrenching to listen to this man's story. And he had lost his family in an airstrike. He had lost his house. He had lost his livelihood. He had lost everything and ended up in Greece. But what was so moving to me was what he decided to do in his brokenness. And how he talked to me about a lot of these refugees have lost even more than he's lost. And then he had to be willing to engage in his own brokenness first in order to help all these other people who are also broken. And I saw that and I was just like, wow, very, very inspired. And that's something that I want to share with you tonight, that we have to use what's in our hand, but even the things that we don't want to use. We have to engage with the snakes in our lives, the things that we're embarrassed by. Maybe we struggle with comparing ourselves to other people. Maybe that's something we don't really want to engage with. Maybe when we see ourselves in the mirror, we don't really love what we see. Maybe we don't love the sound of our own voice. These are things that are like maybe snakes in our lives that we don't actually want to engage. We're embarrassed. I know for me, I have a temper, and sometimes I let that temper get the best of me, and I'm very embarrassed. I'm very ashamed of who I become when I have this temper. I'm ashamed of that. I don't want to engage with that. I know for me that I struggle sometimes thinking about a lot of the mistakes that I made in my past. And I disqualify myself from anything that the Lord wants to do with me because I feel so ashamed. I feel so embarrassed by what's in my hand. I feel so embarrassed by the snakes in my life. But tonight I'm telling you that when we reach down like Moses did and we pick up the snake and we take ownership of that snake as well, there's so much power that can come in that. Not only freedom for ourselves, but freedom for other people as well. There's so much that comes from that. Because I know that God created this whole thing for intimacy. That God gave us gifts, he gave us stories, but he also wants us to depend on him for these things. That God's strength shines in our weaknesses. Just as much as God's strength shines in the gifts that he gave us and the ways that we can use, or the ways we can use our story or our talents, I also know that God wants us to engage in the things that are harder for us to engage in. He wants us to pick up the snake too, which can be really difficult. But I'm telling you, our community, when we do that, not only is there freedom to be had in that for ourselves, but that can impact other people in ways that we'll never, never realize. That those are the things, those are where change happens, right there. And so in those moments, we need to pick up the snakes. We need to engage in the things that we may not want to engage in. Moses had it all in his hand. Moses had everything that he needed to accomplish God's will in his hand the whole time. And so do you. Everyone here tonight, so do you. We're looking at ourselves. How do I find purpose in my life? How do I live out my calling? How do I identify God's will for my life? Do I have what it takes? The answer is absolutely. You have more in your hand than you realize, just like Moses did. He had everything that he needed to go forth and impact the people that he ended up saving. He not only used his talent and his gifts, but in interacting with the snake that he picked up became the staff that he used to part the Red Seas. And that's the same thing that's going to be true for us, that the snakes that we pick up will end up becoming the things that we own to create miracles in our lives and other people. And we need to understand that tonight. Moses had everything that he needed, and so do you. Moses identified what was in his hands. Moses obeyed the Lord. He was faithful, even when it looked a little crazy, even when it seemed something that was insignificant. Moses relinquished what was in his hand to the Lord. He surrendered what was in his hand. And Moses also took a bold risk, and he engaged with the harder things. Moses was vulnerable, and Moses owned what was in his hand. And for us doing that here tonight, that's where change happens, not only for other people, but in ourselves. And so tonight, if you don't hear anything else that I say, if you don't remember anything else, you are a masterpiece. You are absolutely brilliant. Whoa, I went British on that. You are brilliant. You're a masterpiece. God loves you. God looks at you and he sees perfection. And that God created you for a purpose. He created you to go out and to do incredible things with your life. And when we look at the parable of the talents, God gave us these things And he's overjoyed to see us walking in them. He's overjoyed to see us using the gifts that he's given us. And so tonight as you leave, I think it's important to know how much of a masterpiece you are and how there's no prerequisite for stewarding well what the Lord put in your hand tonight. That you already have everything you need to go out and to go make a difference. And that when you do, as is evident in the parable, the Lord will be faithful and multiply what we have in our hand. What we do with those small things, the Lord sees that, and he honors that, and he'll give us more to steward, not only for ourselves, but for other people. So, dear Lord, I thank you so much for who you are. I thank you so much for being a good father. I thank you so much for being sovereign. And I thank you so much for the space that you've given us to engage in the things that will help us go out as a community and love your people, Lord, but also the things that will help us as we relationship with you. I pray over every single person in this room. I thank you so much for your love, for your grace, and for all the good things that you have for each and every person. I just proclaim that you have that over us in the name of Jesus. I thank you so much. Amen.